after the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost this past Sunday to the Kansas City Chiefs 27-24, there are a lot of people out there asking the question, is Tom Brady the problem in Tampa? Now, before the game started, there was a report that came out Sunday morning, according to Bleach Report, that Bruce Arians has reportedly been unhappy or not pleased with Tom Brady's performances as of late, despite the Tampa Bay Buccaneers giving him all of the weapons that he has asked for. And I think that even though that is a rumor, you got to take rumors with a grain of salt, that there is some truth there. Bruce Arians is known as a pretty blunt coach, and he's pretty straightforward, and he's pretty honest. That's why I like Bruce Arians. And I think that there is some truth to the reports that Bruce Arians is unhappy with Tom Brady, because you got to understand something. Tom Brady wanted Antonio Brown in Tampa Bay. Bruce Arians did not. Bruce Arians, remind you, has worked with Antonio Brown in the past when he was working under Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. So he knew what was going on with Antonio Brown in that Pittsburgh situation, which is why Bruce Arians didn't want any part of Antonio Brown. But because Tom Brady wanted Antonio Brown, he was willing to compromise. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers signed Antonio Brown. And you got to understand something. If you're in Bruce Arians' shoes and you're in his situation, I would be unhappy with Tom Brady too, because I gave you everything that you asked for, and yet you go on the field and you're not really producing the results that I expected out of you. Okay, Tom Brady, when you look at his stats, he's having a pretty good season. 3,300 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, completing 64.8% of his passes. But in big games against good teams, Tom Brady hasn't performed all that well. And you look at the guys who he's throwing the football to, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Rock Gronkowski. I mean, there's really no excuse for the reason why Tom Brady hasn't played all that well against good teams. Now, you can blame the offensive line. I can understand, but the offensive line isn't that bad. Is it great? No, but it's not as bad as what it was last year. Tampa Bay's offensive line, in my opinion, is average. It's good enough. So, you also got to think about the players in the locker room. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Antonio Brown could all be number one wide receivers on half of the majority of rosters in the NFL right now. So the fact that they are willing to compromise for Tom Brady because they want to win shows a lot about their character. And it shows a lot about this team. Because Mike Evans and Chris Godwin could have easily said after the Tampa Bay Buccaneers signed Antonio Brown and said that, you know what, I want out, trade me, I don't want to play for this team anymore. But the fact that they were willing to put their egos aside to win games shows a lot about their characters and their personalities. But all that changes when you start to lose. It's okay to, have to share targets when you're winning, but what happens when you lose? Things start to take a turn for the worse. And you look at Tom Brady, he has all the weapons, but he isn't producing. Yesterday, the Buccaneers didn't play good against Tampa Bay on both sides of the football. Tom Brady didn't play great until the second half, and the defense didn't play good neither. They got shredded by Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill had over nearly 200 yards in the first quarter alone. So the defense didn't play good, but the offense didn't play good neither. And when you're Bruce Arians, you brought in Tom Brady to win the big games. And he hasn't really did a lot of that this season. You beat the Green Bay Packers, which was pretty much the biggest win of the season so far for Tampa Bay, but you lose to the Saints twice. You lose to the Rams. You lose to the Chicago Bears on Thursday Night Football. And Tom Brady hasn't really played great when you go back and watch those games. So if I'm Bruce Arians, yeah, I would be frustrated at Tom Brady. And I do think that Tom Brady is the problem in Tampa Bay. But is he the whole entire problem in Tampa Bay? I don't want to think that. Because I do think that Bruce Arians deserves a good amount of the blame. Because you got to understand something. Bruce Arians is supposed to be the quarterback whisperer. He's supposed to be getting the most out of Tom Brady. And I'm in a group chat, me and my homeboys, they were asking me questions about Tampa Bay when they were going against Kansas City Chiefs. They were like, JT, you're supposed to be the football expert. Why are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers always trying to throw the ball deep? And I responded to that question with the shrug emoji like this. That's what I said, I don't really know. I mean, that is part of Bruce Arians' offense. I mean, what did he say last year? No risk it, no biscuit. So Bruce Arians is a guy who loves to throw the football deep. But I thought with Tom Brady coming to Tampa Bay that he would kind of sort of tone down on the aggressiveness when it comes to trying to throw the deep ball. And maybe he would try to, implement some more concepts that Tom Brady used with New England. I mean, they did a little bit of that. But it still feels like Bruce Arians still is full going trying to get the big plays instead of trying to take a methodical approach, just having methodical short plays down the field. The approach that Tom Brady was so successful in Bill Belichick's system down in New England, not trying to get the home run play, trying to get what the defense allows them to get underneath. And then if it allows for Tom Brady to throw the football down the field, then take it. But I don't really think that Tom Brady has really been a great fit in Bruce Arians' system, and it's really surprising me because when Tom Brady got signed by Tampa Bay, wasn't he supposed to not only have a little bit of say in personnel decisions, but also in play calling? So what's going on with that? A lot of people are blaming Byron Leftwich, but what about Tom Brady? Doesn't Tom Brady have a little bit of a say in the play calling and the decisions when it comes to calling plays? I don't really know. So you look at Tom Brady, I don't think he is the complete problem in Tampa Bay, but he does have to be reliable for a good 60 to 7% of why the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have kind of underachieved this season. Because coming in, I was under the expectations that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will at least go 12-4 at worst. At best, they would go 13-3, 14-2. So you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now, they're pretty much going to make it to the wild card. I don't think that the Buccaneers are going to miss the playoffs. I think that is a little bit too extreme. Especially when you look at the last 4 games they have to close the season off with. You have to play the Minnesota Vikings, the Falcons twice, and the Detroit Lions. Now, the Atlanta Falcons, regardless of the Falcons' record, that isn't a team that the Buccaneers should overlook. That is a game that they could end up losing at least one of those. So you look at Tampa Bay, you have a pretty easy schedule to close out the season with. So I'm not questioning the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when it comes to making the playoffs. If I had to bet money, I would bet all of my lifetime earnings that the Buccaneers will make it to the playoffs. My question is, how far are the Buccaneers going to go once they make it to the playoffs? Is my question, because you look at Tom Brady, he hasn't played all that well against good teams. So maybe the Buccaneers get lucky and they get to play a team from the NFC East. But that's pretty much it. Other than that, I don't really see a matchup in the wild card that I would have complete faith and confidence in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning that game. Like, they got matchup against the Rams, don't really have a lot of confidence in that one. If they got matchup against Seattle, wouldn't have a lot of confidence in Tampa Bay winning that one. So there are a lot of games, a lot of potential playoff matchups that Tampa Bay could end up dealing with, and I wouldn't choose Tampa Bay to win. And I don't have anything against the Buccaneers. Remind you that I had the Buccaneers penciled in as a Super Bowl favorite heading into the season. But you look at how this team has played in big games, aside from that Green Bay Packers game, they haven't played good. And also on top of that, they don't really commit to the run game. Like Ronald Jones, he'll have a breakout game here and there, but they don't really commit to him. Here's what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do. In my opinion, it seems like the Buccaneers in the first quarter, they run the ball 5 times, and if it doesn't work, they get rid of it. And that's another problem. No balance on offense. And that was a big problem with Tampa Bay last year. And I'm starting to see the similar problems from Tampa Bay last year that a lot of people try to blame Jameis Winston for, now starting to come back up into fruition. The offensive line still isn't all that great. They still don't really have a big emphasis on the running game. And this offense is just too dependent on Tom Brady, in my opinion. Listen, I understand that Tom Brady is supposed to be the guy to get the Buccaneers to the Super Bowl, but at this point in his career, I don't think Tom Brady is at the point in his career where he should be throwing for 40, almost 50 times a game, every single game. I just don't think that is I don't think that's pretty realistic expectations for Tom Brady, especially when you look at his age. I think Tom Brady's at the point in his career, like, yeah, he can throw for 40, 50 times every once in a while, but it seems like the Buccaneers just go air raid almost every single game when they don't get the run game going, and I just don't think that is realistic to expect out of Tom Brady. So I think that Bruce Arians has to be held more accountable as well. Like, it's easy to put all the blame on Tom Brady because, yeah, Tom Brady had a big say in Antonio Brown coming to Tampa Bay. Yeah, Tom Brady wanted Rock and Towski. But at the end of the day, you still have to do your job as the head coach, Bruce Arians, and find out ways to win games, these big games, with Tom Brady. I mean, even though you have given Tom Brady a little bit more hearsay, you still have to do your job as the head coach and try to put Tom Brady in the best situations to win. And I don't really think that Bruce Arians had the greatest game plan against Kansas City. Now, did Tom Brady underperform in that game against Kansas City? Yes, he did. But at the end of the day, you still have to put Tom Brady in situations to be successful. And if I'm being honest with you, I think Bruce Arians, I'm kind of giving him the eyebrow as well, because Bruce Arians is supposed to be the quarterback whisperer. He is the guy who is supposed to get the most out of quarterbacks. This guy has worked with Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, but yet he didn't really do all that well against Jameis Winston. Well, let me take that back. He got the best and the worst out of Jameis Winston last year. And with Tom Brady has played good, but not good enough when you look at Tom Brady in big games. And Tom Brady, even in the post-game presser the other day, he kind of cut the post-game interview or post-game press conference short because somebody asked him a question about Bruce Arians. And I think that Tom Brady cut that press conference short because he knew the true answer. He knows that Bruce Arians isn't happy with his performance. I'm pretty sure everybody knows that. And I can't fault Bruce Arians for being upset. You asked for this, I give you it. And you're not producing to my level of expectations. That's like, if you're in a relationship, you're in a relationship with this girl, and you see your girlfriend is unhappy. So you ask your girlfriend, hey baby, what's wrong? What can I do to make this better? So she tells you all the list of things you can do to work on yourself to improve. You do those things. You know, you're doing chores around the house. You're cleaning the dishes. You're taking out the trash. You're spending more time with the kids. You're buying them all these stuff. You're taking her out on dates to places that she's never been at, and she's still unhappy. Yeah, you're going to be upset, because you're doing all these things and it's not paying off. So I can understand why Bruce Arians is upset with Tom Brady. I don't blame Bruce Arians for being upset. But also, if you're Bruce Arians, you got to look at yourself in the mirror as well. You have to look at yourself and say, hey, man, I deserve a little bit of the blame as well. I can't play it on Tom Brady, even though he does have a decision and, you know, the personnel say and a little bit of the play calling. But at the end of the day, you still have to do your job as the head coach. And I think maybe with Bruce Arians, maybe he's gotten a little bit too complacent. Maybe he says, hey man, I have Tom Brady. Tom Brady has all this control. I think Bruce Arians maybe has taken a back seat. Maybe he has gotten a little bit too comfortable. You know, maybe he needs to reestablish some more control and a little bit more say-so in that Tampa Bay hierarchy. Because I think Bruce Arians looked at Tom Brady in the offseason and said, you know what, Bruce Arians said that if we get Tom Brady, he's going to solve pretty much all of our problems. All I have to do is just let Tom Brady do the work, and I only have to do bare minimum. I think that Bruce Arians maybe needs to have a little bit more hearsay in what goes on during the games instead of just giving Tom Brady the keys. Like, you can give somebody the keys to a Bentley, but that doesn't mean that they're going to know how to drive it all the way without a little bit of assistance. So, at the end of the day, is Tom Brady the problem in Tampa Bay? Yeah, he is, but not the whole entire problem. Bruce Arians deserves a little bit amount of blame as well. So you guys let me know what you guys think about this down in the comment section down below. Do you think that Tom Brady is the problem down in Tampa Bay? Make sure you like the video.